It's everybody's story. You're just expressing it in your own unique way. But um, you're saying that you have a bit of surface level power or control, but you don't have control over deeper things.
I would say that.
Okay. So that means then that you are a victim to those feelings.
Yeah, at some level, at some very fundamental level, yes. And I don't like feeling like a victim
You
because,
don't want to be known and you do not want to think of yourself as a victim.
well, it's not useful if you're a victim, because victim means that you can't, they have like some inherent meaning that you can't really do anything about it. Whereas if you rephrase it as not a victim but like a participant, then it's easier to get out of that place by participating in it. And I feel like it's easier to deal with if I don't see myself as a victim. I can
All
just,
right. So you're actually adding a kind of a new layer that is normally not discussed. Let's talk about it like this. At the lower level, and it goes very deep, there's many, many layers and levels of victim.
mhm,
And then there's this range or area of participant. And then on top of that, there's the area of the lion, the winner, the champion, the one who feels successful, and that you're still caught someplace in being a participant and being a victim and not being an actual winner in the sense of being able to see a feeling and then come right out of it.
mhm,
That in fact, most of the time we don't even see it. That when we see it, we can do something about it. And so you're saying you're participating, and that means that you're kind of seeing it.
mhm.
Okay, good. Let's get some agreement here because it's going to take a while. And I want to make sure that step by step that you understand everything that we're talking about. So getting back to that point, that if you're the beginner's way is to start to be mindful of the breathing. And that mindfulness of breathing is learning how to control it. And that if you don't control it, then it's really easy to forget about it and let it go back to the normal way. And so there's very many different techniques of breathing that are useful, wholesome, and valuable.
Okay.
And yet mostly we don't breathe those ways. We breathe in a conservative way instead, rather than being liberal. In fact, you could go so far as to say the whole practice, rather than coming out of being a victim into the winner, is the same thing as coming out of conservatism and becoming a liberal. A conservative feels poor and needs to conserve his wealth. The liberal feels wealthy and is generous. A conservative has to protect his territory because there's enemies out there. But the liberal says, oh no, come on in. There's room for everyone. And so basically, we're talking about an attitude. And right noble attitude is one of the most important points on the Eightfold Noble Path. First comes right view, and that it takes a while to develop, to come out of ordinary views and ordinary right view into a supramundane right view that is above the world. An example of that, an easy example, is to say that everybody is an emperor of their own pile of dirt. The question is, are you going to stay buried under that pile of dirt? Are you going to spend your time trying to climb out of it? Or are you going to spend your time sitting on top of it, on top of your own pile of dirt? on top of the world. It's hard to get a laugh out of you.
I mean, I don't. So I don't understand so everyone's an emperor on their own pile of dirt.
Yes, that's their own mind. Everybody's an emperor of their own mind.
Okay. And so, yeah, so that's, I mean, I do believe that most, like, the perception dominates our lives. It's not, and you can do whatever with your palace. And so there, you can train, I guess you can train. So basically, you're saying that through training the most basic thing, which is your breathing, you can eventually control everything. So you control something so basic as the breathing that if you get to control, you can control everything. Is that the case?
No. In fact, you use the word everything. Well, I'm not using the word everything. That's actually quite grandiose.
Well, emotion, and by everything, I mean emotions and thoughts.
All right, let's go through the list of things that we can work with. We can work with anxiety. We can work with fear. We can work with sadness.
What about?
Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like the most thing, I don't know if it's an emotion, but meaningless. Just like it just seems that because there's, I don't see, because the mind is something that you can hack and you have to understand, and we are just here because I don't know. It's, to me,
neither do I.
The
I do not know why you were here.
Why what?
I do not know why you're here. I do not know why you were born. I know why you're on the Skype call, but I don't know why you're here. I do not know why you exist. I do not know why I exist. I also understand that those kind of questions are completely irrelevant.
But then there's no motive. There's no point. There's no point.
That's right. There's not. Get over it.
but then that comes with so many implications. Like, okay,
why do you want to become implicated?
Because otherwise there's no point in being alive. Like,
that's right. There is no point in being alive.
Then how do you convince yourself on fucking living?
Okay. Maybe because you can look at it from the perspective of feeling. See, you're looking at it from the perspective of something outside of yourself. One of the main reasons to stay alive is because there's a survival instinct that's built into our DNA as part of our basic programming. That part of the brain actually keeps you breathing even when you're asleep, that the breathing will become automatic. But there's another quality, and that is that there's quality of life that we want to live because we enjoy living. But most people don't enjoy living. The people who don't enjoy living but are driven to continue to live because of the self-preservation instinct then want to have a reason or a rationale. And that's one of the values in creating religions and things like that.
I mean, it's the only value. It's the most, is the biggest value because it gives you motivation at some level.
No, actually, the problem is you've already got way too many motivations or drivers. And most of the drivers that you have are driven by feelings of want, feelings of need, feelings of liking something and then wanting it. And that's what drives us.
But at the same time, okay, so you're saying that feelings drive us, but then you have to control your feelings so that they drive you where?
back into your chair to sit down, take a deep breath, and enjoy your life.
Okay. Oh God. I mean, this is all superficially very simple, but fundamentally.
That's right. It is. It is actually superficially easy to see, but there is a deep learning process to really understand what's going on. And that's about the best that the teacher can do, is to take you to a deep understanding of the nature of reality. But then to become a master of it, that takes practice.
But why is this not given to every kid? Why are these kind of thoughts, these kind of techniques not taught in every school, so that you become to like this, you understand, you absorb these concepts or these ideas since you're a kid, so by the time that you grow up, then you're, because that seems to be the only thing that we should be worrying about, everyone, did, right?
No worries. Be happy.
Oh God. Okay.
And yet you ask a question that can be restated is, why is human society based upon a system to where you're not satisfied with the way things are, so that you have to work to climb the ladder, to do things in order to become successful, and then you feel good. Except that we wind up not ever really feeling good except temporarily. Even the rich man who robs people and gets $1 million, he's a hedge fund manager, or he destroys companies like um, uh, oh, I forget his name, but anyway, the kind of guys that go in and as corporate raiders, they call them. And yet the corporate raider who winds up being so wealthy, or a Bezos who becomes so wealthy, they're still not completely satisfied. Bill Gates, not completely satisfied. In fact, he's more satisfied now in his old age, now that he's a philanthropist and beginning to give away his money, gives him more satisfaction than all the dirty dealings he did as the manager of Microsoft.
Wait, how do you know that he's more satisfied?
Well, he'll tell you.
Wait, so you do?
And it's common. He's following a pattern that's well understood by the wise, but one has to get in charge of the feelings in order to be able to live that way. We are trained in our society to feel like we don't have enough. We want more. Even the child that keeps getting all that he wants, all they're really training him is in wanting more and more. We don't train our children to become satisfied and happy. In fact, when children are playing and enjoying their lives, we grab them and put them into school and say, sit down and learn ABC. Shut up and learn 1, 2, 3. Stop enjoying your life and do what you're told to do. And everyone in the society is then living that kind of life. And it's only the very wise, it's only the nobles who recognize it. That's a disaster.
So, but in that case, you're saying that that would sacrifice basically all of human development would be sacrificed if that was the aim, right? Like
What kind of development are you talking about?
vaccines, satellites, um, computers, cities, like like technology. The fact that we are the internet.
Okay, if someone is sitting on his porch and he has no computer and he's satisfied with it, and you come and put a computer down in front of him, what's he going to do with it? He's already satisfied with his life. People are using computers to get something because they're dissatisfied.
So you don't think that there's any value in technology in the
I'm
development?
saying that it has not reduced or eliminated human suffering or dukkha,
Do you
not
think?
just suffering, but in fact dissatisfaction. In fact, we use that technology because we're dissatisfied. If we were completely satisfied and happy, we wouldn't need so much technology. So, in fact, what you can say is that technology is part of our ignorance. We're thinking that the tools that we make are going to satisfy us and make us happy. You can see how that happened way, way back when primitive man began to use a stone to break open bones so he could get the marrow out because the lions and the dogs have eaten most of the meat. So basically, our cell phone is nothing but that stone that we picked up, and we're pounding on that cell phone to try to get some marrow out of some bone.
So you think there's no real value in the way that we've developed it?
I didn't say there's no real value. You're judging value. I'm talking about a point of view that people are dissatisfied. There is dissatisfaction in life. And that dissatisfaction can be represented in anxiety. That dissatisfaction can be represented in fear. That dissatisfaction can be represented as anger. And worse still, it can be represented as hate.
Hmm.
And when we become satisfied, then we don't stay so much anxious. We don't stay so much in fear. And when we're completely satisfied, we're unlikely to just do as we're told to do, to go along to get along, and don't like it. Like, for instance, you don't really like going to work.
I mean, I
Yeah, you just answered my question. You just answered it. You don't like going to work. There is some value in pleasure that you're trying to resist. But ultimately, if you had a choice to where you were completely satisfied with either going to work or not going to work, then you probably would choose not going to work.
I mean, I like to go to work more motivated and more knowing what I know, because I do enjoy part of my job. But the fact is that I don't enjoy the parts that make me feel like I have to do it. If
That's
I
the part
didn't,
that we're talking about. Okay, so throw out all of the stuff that you're using with resistance in our conversation and listen to what I'm actually talking about and get in touch with that.
which is your
What you
head.
just said. Go ahead and tell me about it. That there are some parts of your job that are unsatisfying, dissatisfaction, but you do them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people live their lives doing that a lot, doing things that are necessary to be done because they were told that they should do them.
But so there's two main ways in which you can do this. Do you do you control your head in the way that you find things that are not super satisfactory and make them satisfactory, or do you exclusively switch to do only things that are satisfactory?
Actually, that's it's going to be a balance. And that your job in, let's say, your budding wisdom is begin to start making some new choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. Are you going to continue to do the way that you have been doing it, or are you going to wake up to see how you're doing it and how that's unsatisfactory? And then you can choose what you're going to do about it. In the moment, you can choose to feel differently about it, but ultimately, you can choose, for instance, to change jobs or to retire. That in fact, one of the primary goals I know of young men is they want to retire now, and yet they still work until they're too old.
Well, I mean, for me, there's this, yeah, most people want to retire, but there's also some need to achieve something too.
Yes, that's right. That's because you're dissatisfied and you want to achieve and you don't know how to achieve, and you're looking for something on the outside world to get your feelings of achievement. And we're talking about how to start using and going directly after that feeling of achievement, to become that champion, to become that lion. The Buddha was referred to as a lion. And achievement, why do you want, let me ask you this question then. Why do you want to achieve anything?
Well, because I see life, because there's no meaning for anything. It's just a game, right? I was given a set of skills and a set of.
No, you developed your skills, every one of them. Nobody gave you anything.
Well, life experience gave it to me, right? The point is that in the present moment, I have these skills and I have this set of things that may as well be used to fix the world, which is clearly in some sort of need. And and that is like, and that is that's why I want to achieve, because people need help. And so,
All right, let me ask you this question then. If you were able to achieve things one after another, but you were dissatisfied with that achievement, then what's the point? But if you, in fact, have an achievement and you are joyful, satisfied, you feel successful, which would you rather feel with your achievements? To be dissatisfied with your achievements or to feel successful? Which?
I would like to think that it doesn't matter the how I feel. What I like to think is that I would be able to make an accurate assessment of what is the impact, and be able to say that is a.
Okay, guess what? You will never know the full impact because you don't know all of the criteria. So let's not worry about that. You're not a god. Get over it. That in fact, you're not even able to control your own breath. You're not able to control your own feelings. You even said that your feelings don't matter, that it's the greater good, but you can't control that if you can't even control your breath. So let's get back down to the real issues. The real issue is that you want achievements because it makes you feel good, it makes you feel successful. And that part of the way that you feel good and feel successful is because you're telling yourself the story or giving yourself the concept that this is good for everybody. It's a greater good. My achievements are good for everyone.
That sounds very selfish.
Yes, it does. And we got to get into that to understand that you are not that big achiever. That basically selfishness comes from the self preservation instinct or the quality or the feeling that I am. And that actually comes generally out of the state of dissatisfaction. And we want to go into a state of satisfaction. And if you can get into a state of satisfaction, then you can kind of let the world take care of itself.
Okay, we can go back to breathing then.
Basically, I'll tell you what. This concept of the teachings of the Buddha Dhamma, is so radical that it's like 180 degrees to turn around. And not only that, but once we understand that we've got to make a 180-degree turnaround and go from the into an opposite direction of where we've always wanted to go, always thought that that was the right way to go, going along to get along, going along with the crowd. But now that we are seeing that things have to be reversed, now we have to stop the train, the inertia of that train going in the wrong direction, or let us say a great big ship. Takes a long time for it to turn around or to even stop. Make a U-turn is very difficult. So after the captain recognizes that he's going in the wrong direction, it's still going to take a lot of work and effort to turn things around. Right now, we're only working on the area of beginning to see, for you, to begin to turn things around to see that, that really it's not the outside world that needs to be fixed. It's the inside world that needs to be fixed. And what is on the inside? Thoughts, feelings, sensations of the body, and our senses, and all of our past experiences that flavor our perceptions, so that we wind up not seeing the world as it is right now, but we see it according to the plan that we had made over the years. And so we begin to use judgments and judge things according to old information rather than the current moment. And because we normally are in a feeling of anxiety, tension, upsetness, and those feelings are there, then the old feelings of those experiences from our past then will flavor the current moment, so that we wind up feeling right now in this moment not what is available for us to feel, but what we're in the habit of feeling. And so when you recognize, you can begin to feel the way you want to feel. And I remember a few moments ago, you said, my feelings are not important. Oh, yes, they are. You live your whole life according to your feelings. Those are the drives, those are the motivations. Even the motivation to succeed is just an old feeling. And the question then would be, well, why don't you feel the way you want to feel? If you want to feel successful, if you want to feel like you're achieving something, then achieve something good and valuable on the inside of your mind, body, complex, rather than trying to achieve it on the outside world.
Yeah, what are these kind of things that you achieve then? How do you
Pardon?
what are the things and how do you achieve them, the inside parts?
You feel good rather than driven. You
Yeah,
feel
but
happy. You feel satisfied.
how does it, so everyone who has been awake, as you say, do they all live in remote lives and don't care about anything else?
Let us say from time to time, and more time goes on, that's more the way that they experience a life. Like I said, most people are in the regard of what you're talking about. They're still in the process of turning their ship around. It takes a while. Once you recognize that you're heading in the wrong direction, and you're just beginning to wake up to the fact that, wait a minute, there may be a different way to live.
I mean, it does seem like it's evolutionarily, like all of this drive and the success and all these are like, yeah, evolutionary ideas that used to work.
Maybe,
I
or
mean,
maybe they're just part of modern society. Maybe that's the effect of the Industrial Revolution.
well, but happiness is not as necessary for survival, but there are other traits that are absolutely necessary for survival. So that's why we optimize ourselves towards survival and not towards happiness.
Are you in danger of losing your life right now? Anybody trying to break into your house? Any guns pointed at
No,
you?
that's why we're going crazy. That's why we're going crazy, because now life isn't as hard as it used to be, and now we have to.
Absolutely. Now you're on track. Exactly so. So, out of our evolution and out of the cultures that were built, we now have too much fear. We're in too much survival mode. Rather than getting on top of the pile, you think that you're buried under your own pile of crap. And all you have to do is change your attitude about it. But that's going to take some skill. To come out of that victim's position. Yes, that's the victim's position. Survival mode means that we feel like we're under attack. But the champion doesn't feel like he's under attack.
So you have to be a champion.
Let us say that you've got a choice. Most people don't even know they have a choice. For those who do know that they have a choice, they would choose to be a lion, but then they forget that they've got that choice. But those who start to remember over and over and over again, I've got a choice, either being a victim or being a champion, they eventually get into the habit of feeling more like a champion, more like a winner. Not in survival mode. Nothing's dangerous.
So nothing else matters except how you control your emotions. That is the ultimate thing. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying that wouldn't it be preferable though?
Yeah, but where are you ultimately trying to get? I don't see an endpoint.
Why do you want to get something?
Because it's easier to imagine yourself in a way, and then you walk towards that, as opposed to, I don't
Why
know.
don't you imagine yourself in such a way and then be that right then and there?
Because I don't know what to imagine.
All right, imagine yourself that you can be happy anytime that you remember to be happy.
That doesn't seem sustainable.
Yes, it's not. And you will fall back and you will forget many, many times. So it's a skill to be developed. The question is, can you get into it? The second one is, how long can you sustain it? And then when it's gone, can you remember to get back into it again? And then if you can get back into it, can you sustain it? And you won't be able to. You can't.
Your life is an entire fight with yourself. You trying to convince to remember happiness and then forgetting it.
But it's not a fight.
The perpetual remembrance.
Right, exactly. And you can think of it this way. Instead of it being a fight, think of it, wow, I'm really glad to be out of that now. So you're looking at it in the fight in the sense of a time span. One of the qualities that you're looking at is a past and a future. And that the past and the future are so important that the now becomes almost irrelevant or very short. But in fact, if you come into the be here now, if you are in the now and you can sustain the now, then the now becomes very long and your past becomes irrelevant and the future becomes irrelevant. And you just sustain the present moment. Sustain it in joy, in the attitude of being a winner, to experience your senses, to experience the day, to sing beautiful songs like Zippity-doo-dah, Zippity-yay.
That's not a song. So what do you think about women? How does that work?
It's a feeling, not an actual accomplishment in the sense of doing a puzzle like Sudoku or solitaire or something. But it's a feeling. The feeling is I can do this. The feeling of I can come out of my hindrances of the mind. I can think the kind of thoughts that I want to think. Rather than think the thoughts that I've been thinking because of habit.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't. Okay, this all seems very interesting in abstract, but I don't. How do you practically do that?
Well, like we said, we start with the breath. As you can begin to control the breath, then you begin to start noticing things. So we begin with Anapanasati, and in fact, not only do we begin with the breath, but we continue with the breath while we're developing the other skills.
So so the idea is to just always control your breath at all times.
I hear you using a lot of grandiosity.
I mean, what?
Always, okay? That always, that's a past and future oriented thing. No, think of it in the sense of the moment of it's better right now for me to be happy than it is for me to be miserable.
So okay, so it's not always. It's at any given
Got
time.
nothing to do with always. It's got to do with right now.
Okay. Is happiness the only emotion worth working towards?
Let me say it this way. I use that word happiness because it's commonly used. That Bhikkhu Buddhadasa uses the word happiness.
Mm-hmm.
In the Pali, they use the word sukha, and sukha actually, if you look at the way that languages are constructed, sukha is exactly opposite of the word dukkha. And sukha is almost always translated as pleasure, being in a state of pleasure. Another word that we can use, which is actually quite useful, is to understand it as satisfactory. And use the word dukkha and unsatisfactory. So would you prefer to be in a state of satisfactoriness or unsatisfactoriness?
Okay, I mean that's an easy question. If you prefer to be satisfactory.
All right. So, but your question was, is happiness the only word?
Okay, so I guess there's other satisfactory states other than happiness.
Let's leave that for you to explore once you get into those states.
Well, I mean, I've been in a happy before, and I've been in a satisfactory.
Okay, well, now we're going to do it enough to where you can actually explore it. In fact, it's important for you to remember and recognize that you have been in those states before so that you can use that as, let us say, positive reinforcement to give you the confidence that you can go back into that state anytime you want to.
Okay. It seems like a super hard thing to do, but it's not broken into easier tasks.
Pardon? I didn't quite get you.
So it seems to be a really hard thing to do.
A hard thing to do.
Well, I mean, this habit, like developing the habit of just controlling your emotions.
Actually, when you use the word hard, that's an attitude. the attitude of a loser. If you use the word easy or perhaps eager, if you can get yourself into the state of being eager to be happy or eager to find this unsatisfactory state and get into a state of satisfaction, then that eagerness then would demote or would connotate that you're actually the winner. You've changed your attitude into a positive attitude. But when you use the word hard, then you're connoting that this is difficult and that it's going to require a lot of work and that I'm not quite up to the task.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Well, I have to be careful with you because you tend to find something wrong with every little thing I say.
Well, I mean, yeah, I have a lot of questions, but well, not a lot of questions, but yeah.
Let us say you have a lot of confusion.
Sure.
All right, good. Let's stay on that so that we can continue to agree. Let me explain it to you this way. There is the hindrance of doubt, and that in fact it's such a hindrance that it's also considered a fetter. It's the third fetter. And
Better.
when we mean fetter, like a bondage, like bound up, like
Okay.
your hands are tied.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why they use the word fetter when they translated the word asava out of the Pali, or kilesa rather, out of the Pali into English, they use the word fetter, so I tend to use the words that's in the book.
Okay.
Okay. But it's a bondage, a fetter. Doubt prevents us from doing things. In other words, if you're out traveling someplace and there's a creek or a chasm to cross, and you doubt that you can jump across it, then you won't even try. But if you say, yes, I can, and you go take your best effort and run and jump, then the likelihood is that you probably will reach that goal. Now, you might not, but if you doubt that you can do it, you won't even try. And so doubt is a major issue, and it expresses itself in confusion. There are basically three kinds of doubt, or let us say three levels. The first level, which is one that you're struggling with now, is who made this mess? Whose fault is it anyway? Or another way of stating it is, how can I get help to do this? Imagine that you go into a room and you see that it's just a complete mess. Maybe the cat knocked some stuff over or whatever. But the point is that when we see that mess on the floor, we become a bit disgusted and we have the thought, who did this? Who made this mess? Why? Because we say it's their responsibility. They made the mess. And so I want them to come clean up the mess because I don't like the mess that's been made. And this is very common thinking. You might have had those kind of thoughts yourself. Now, the point is that we can expand that from just a mess on the floor in a room into your whole life. And we ask that question, who made this mess? And the way that we state that is a little highfalutin, a little better. I'm saying it at the lowest base level. Who made this mess is basically the question of what's it all about? What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? Why am I here? Those are the kind of questions that boil down to who made this mess? And we have to get over that doubt because obviously, if we begin to really research it and understand what's going on, it's I made this mess. This mess is mine. This is my empire, and I'm the emperor of my own pile of dirt. And so that's the first doubt, is who is responsible. So long as we're asking for help, so long as we want a mommy to come help us, to put on a new diaper for us, or to put our clothes on us, so long as we want a mommy to feed us, then we keep looking for a mommy. Or we look for a daddy to rebel from. And so people spend their whole life in this position of not taking responsibility 100% for their entire life. And so we have, when we're teenagers, we have authority issues. When we get older, in fact, the older they get, the more likely they're going to go into some religion. Why do old people go into religion? Is because they won't help. They go to doctors because they won't help. They go to lawyers because they need one. They want help.
I mean, Buddhism is a religion too, right?
Well, when it's been fucked up, it's a religion. Thank you for smiling. I got a joke. Yes, and that is Western Buddhism. Western Buddhism is a religion, and it does not relieve people from suffering, or it does not take you out of a state of dissatisfaction into a state of satisfaction. In fact, there's quite a lot in Western Buddhism that directly prevents people. One of them is like this first doubt that we're talking about, when people are taught the concept of rebirth. In other words, your old past actions from a past life color and condition this current life, and that the actions of this life is going to mess up the next life. That whole thing is then broken down to who's responsible. Well, it's the karma machine that's responsible. And that I am a victim of the karma machine.
So that's only Western Buddhism.
Well, it's very common in Asia, but it's not 100% solid in Asia. In Asia, there is a lot of nobility. In Asia, there are still small pockets of those who truly understand the Supra-mundane Dhamma of the Buddha. But in Western Buddhism, it's almost non-existent. Now, of the, let us say, 100 or so Asian monks that are squirreled away in the various wats and temples in the United States and in the West and Europe and whatnot, those monks are still Asian monks. And the Westerners don't go to the noble monks that are available. They go instead to Dhamma teachers who are in it for profit. They're looking for the profit. They want to make it into a business. They want a living off of it. But the Dhamma is best shared when it is overflowing, when you've got so much Dhamma that that's the only thing that you talk about. And then whoever listens to you, they're a student of the Dhamma. No need for any money or transactions or anything. That in fact, the actual teachings of the Buddha are so valuable that it's beyond money, priceless.
But you need a source of income in order to eat and perform your basic needs.
Yes, and if I'm wise enough to set that up, then I can spread the Dhamma. And one of the ways of doing that is, and it's been done since the time of the Buddha, is just give up on everything. Go hang out in the woods. Take a baking pot and go out to see who's going to give you something, some scraps left over from last night. And that was the beginning of the Sangha. And now, right now, the Sangha that we're talking about worldwide in its various forms, there's about 6 million people living that lifestyle.
Where do they live?
Huh?
Where do they live?
Where do they live?
Mm-hmm.
Well, about let us say somewhere between 4 to 600,000 of them live in Thailand in various Watch temples, forest retreat centers, Dhamma centers, that kind of place.
And you can just, so there's people who just go and then just stay there.
Yeah. And if you're, let us say, wise and happy and worth being around and not causing trouble, then people will support you. And so that's one possibility. And in fact, many of them don't ordain. It's not necessary to ordain and take on the right clothing. But if you do want to go stay, for instance, if you want to come to Thailand, I know 3 or 4 places that you can go and just live there, free of free of rent. When you
So,
go when you go out for food, you just follow the monks around, and the people will give enough. In fact, the if a monk goes out by himself, they don't give him very much. But if there's a whole troop, they're really happy with that. And so um, there's not only is he called a look-sit as a student who goes to follow the monk around, but they also call him a kapow, which means a pocket, or let us say a draft animal. And so the Western layman who travels on Bendabat with a monk is the one who has to carry all the goodies back to the Wat.
uh, so do you, and what kind of people end up like that?
Some of the happiest people in the world. They didn't start that way.
That sounds, that sounds like a drastic change for anyone.
Didn't I tell you that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that's how you basically, so because you have to give up all of your evolutionary ideas, all of the ideas that have been sold to you, all of
Rather than give up, I would rather say get over.
fine, trash them, right?
It takes wisdom. It takes the ability to really see what's going on. And when you see that you have been given far too much work to do, far too much expectations to have a happy life. And so here's an example of that just off the cuff. If you've got a whole lot of things in your hand, then the likelihood of dropping one of them is very high. That in fact you could even carry just one thing in your hand, like a cell phone or car keys or something, and still drop it. The only way that you're going to make sure that you're not going to drop anything through forgetfulness is by not having anything, to be empty-handed. Now, with you, with me, the number of things that I carry around is very, very small. I tend to sit on the porch. I don't go shopping. I don't leave much. I go to the bank occasionally, but very, very rarely. I go to immigration once a year. And because of that lifestyle, I don't wear shoes much. No need for the shoes. So I live a very simple life, which is also very uncomplicated and very rewarding.
How is it rewarding?
Is reward well, one of the ways it's rewarding is because I have students call and I cackle with laughter when I see them suffer.
Okay, so the teaching is rewarding. Do you, but
Let us say it's overflowing. But uh, if I If I thought that it was the teaching that was rewarding and that was the only thing that I had going, then I might, in fact, not enjoy doing it. That if I run into a student that's not rewarding, that he resists everything that I say, then I would not want to have that student.
How long did it take you to wake up?
Every time I get a chance.
Well, since you realized that there was a need to wake up to, until the time we're like, all right, I'm awake.
You're still in the future. You're still future oriented. You wake up in this moment always. This moment is the only thing that matters. Can you wake up right now? Is the question. Because if you can wake up right now, then that's the skill you're developing, and the later you can wake up again. If you can't wake up right now, then how do you think that you can ever wake up?
Well, not because I can do something right now doesn't mean that I'll never be able to do, right? But that's why you train.
Right, but if you're going to do it sometime in the future, why not do it right now? Why wait? Why
Because
be in dissatisfaction for a long time before you decide that you're going to be in a state of satisfaction? Why don't you come into a state of satisfaction right now?
I don't know.
That's part of the 180-degree turn, is to come out of the past and come out of the future and come into thinking, and everything about the practice of the teaching of the Buddha has to be done in this present moment.
And it's just breathing.
You start with breathing. And then we add a few new skills as we begin to learn how to breathe. But the first skill that you have to start to develop is the skill of sati. There's also the skill of right view, in the sense that it is better to be happy than it is to be miserable. That's one's right view. That it's better to be happy than it is to be miserable. That it's better to be content and satisfied with this present moment than it is to be in a state of wondering what's it all about, or what can I accomplish so that I can feel good. Oh, I don't have to accomplish anything. I can just feel good.
I feel like I'm usually good at talking about these things, about, oh, if you feel bad, just feel better. But and I
Do
feel
you
like,
have the skill to do that?
no, it's way easier to talk about it and to know. Like for me, it's...
So let's talk about what skills need to be developed then.
Okay.
That's what we were starting at, is let's figure out what skills that are needed so that you can, with right effort and right attitude, and remember to do it, to come out of that state of suffering, or out of the state of dissatisfaction, or out of the state of being a victim or a loser, into the state of being a winner, into the state of satisfaction, into the state of success. And it's an attitude change. And that attitude change is slow, based upon the eradication of the doubt. Because that's the second doubt that we're beginning to talk about now. The first doubt is, who made this mess? Am I responsible for my own pile of dirt? The answer is absolutely yes. So the second doubt then is, am I able to get out of my own pile of dirt? Can I get out of my own mess that I made, that I'm responsible for? This is what the second noble truth is really all about, is who's the source of the dukkha? Where is the source? What's the cause of it? And in the description of the second noble truth, it's only an indicator or a pointer of it. But the indicators are, it's because of my own ignorance, it's because of my own greed, and it's because of my own dissatisfaction and not liking stuff. And my greed means is I want something that I don't have. And if I want something I don't have, then that's a want. If I have to put up with something I don't like, then I want to get rid of it, a second kind of want. And when I'm confused, I want the answer. So it's a third kind of want. It's in a state of want. It's a state of dissatisfaction. That's the source of suffering. And they refer to it in English, the translators refer to it as greed, ill will, and delusion. You probably heard that. The second noble truth is greed. The source of suffering is greed, ill will, and delusion. But we have to unpack that. We understand that these are concepts that are delivered with one word, but that we have to unpack it. And as we unpack that second noble truth, we recognize that ain't nobody else there on the outside. An example of that is the tsunami. A real tsunami or a hurricane comes. And they say, oh, it's the force of nature, or that it's God did it, an act of God. They even use the word act of God in insurance policies. All right? So, the act of nature, is that actually the cause of the suffering? No, the actual cause of the suffering is I was too ignorant about tsunamis to not get out of the way. When I saw that water going right out, I say, man, I'm going to go that direction and I'm going to seek high ground.
Okay.
And if I get caught in the tsunami, it's because of my own ignorance.
So, but why is that called a doubt? Why is that the second doubt? Because
the doubt is, are you ready? Are you capable of coming out of your own crap? You're the emperor of your own pile of dirt. Can you climb out of it? Or are you going to remain half buried or completely buried under your own pile of crap, your own pile of dirt? Can you get out of it? Can you be a winner, or are you going to remain a victim?
So the first doubt is like, who made this mess? Mm-hmm. Then the second doubt is, after you realize that you made this mess, it's like, can I fix it?
Can you fix it? Exactly. And okay. then the final doubt is this the right way to do it? Is this the right method? And when you come to understand that, oh yes, the Buddhist path, that is the one that works. And now you've got all three kinds of doubt eradicated. You know who's responsible. You know that you can do it, and you know that you've got the right tools and techniques. You've got the right method to do it. And so off you go.
This still feels very religion-y. This still feels like you have
to Sorry about that. Sorry. No, I don't do this. You're the one who thinks it is the religion.
Well, I mean, it just like, I used to be super Catholic, and it's just like, Jesus is el camino, la verdad y la vida, the road, the truth, and the life, right? And I remember me repeating it over and over again, and it just realizing that it's crap, right? And now it's just like you telling me like, oh, I'm gonna tell you that this is the right way to fix your life.
No, I'm not going to tell you. It's something that you have to come to yourself. This is the eradication of your doubt, not mine.
Okay.
Still outside oriented with that, okay? Jesus said a lot of stuff. Much of it is worthwhile and valuable. Unfortunately, people made the teachings of Jesus into a religion. And the religion is far, far, far bigger and more important than the actual teachings of Jesus. But what some of the things that Jesus actually did say were things like, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And yet Christianity is absolutely full of crap.
No, I mean now that if you put it into a certain light, then Jesus was right, right? You
He
should know.
was.
He
And
didn't
in
tell you
fact,
what
Bhikkhu
truth is necessary.
Buddhadasa is a big fan of Jesus. If you actually pay attention to the teachings of Jesus, you can say, wait a minute, there is real deep Buddhism right there. But the religion of Christianity is nowhere near the teachings of Jesus, just like the religion of Buddhism is nowhere near the teachings of
Buddha.
the Tathagata. Even the Buddha is like the word Christ. Jesus didn't know the word Christ. That was added later. Well, Siddhartha Gautama referred to himself as Tathagata, and it was only later that people started calling him Buddha.
What does
As
Tathagata mean? Is that his?
Tathagata means the one who is here now.
Interesting.
Tathagata, in fact, the Pali word tatata means right this. This is it. Right here, right now. This is referred to in the Pali translations as thus or thusness. And that's a little obscure. But if you understand that to mean this or this moment, right here, right now, Eckhart Tolle referred to it as this present moment, and Ram Dass calls it be here now. And the Buddha referred to himself as Tathagata, to be in the present moment. And Jesus would say the kingdom of heaven is within you. Luke 17. But there was one thing that Jesus didn't say that I'd like to add to it. And that's the third line of that verse. He only gave the first two lines. He was being kind to the people, but I'm going to be rough with you. I'm going to give you Jesus' third line.
Okay.
Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, but first it will piss you off.
I mean, it'll
And
confuse the shit out of you.
Pardon?
It'll confuse the shit out of you and also piss you off.
That's exactly what we're hoping for. It is that, in fact, it doesn't confuse the shit out of you. It surprises the shit out of you. Literally.
I mean, yeah, I guess a surprise can be a sudden confusion. But, okay, so you doubt who made the mess, you doubt if you can fix it, and you're doubting if you're fixing it the right way. And those are the teachings, but it's not the same as any religion because you're focusing on the teachings and not the religion, which is the extra crap that is around
Actually,
it.
no, we're not in that in that regard. We're not focused on the teachings. What we're actually doing is allowing the teachings to point to what's really happening right here, right now, and then that's what we focus on. We focus on the Four Noble Truths as we experience those Four Noble Truths right here, right now. Is this suffering? Am I being delusional? Or am I in that third state? Am I in a moment of being free from suffering? Or actually free from dissatisfaction? Free from that stuff? Free from fear? Free from anger? Free from anxiety? Free from all negative emotions? And I'm completely satisfied. That's the third noble truth. And so, how can I get out of dissatisfaction following the second noble truth that gets me back into dissatisfaction? How can I come out of that dissatisfaction into the right way of doing it so I can live my life happily?
It seems like at some levels you can. Do you think that you can become detached from your surroundings if you're always happy regardless of what's happening around you?
Well, you're back into future again. Let's say right now I can. if I remember to.
Okay. I mean, I seem to be always going back to the future and
There's a movie about that.
okay, so don't worry about the future and
Don't worry about anything. But almost all of the worries that you have will be worries about the future.
I guess that's most people, right?
Yep. We feel bad and we want to fix it, so we make a plan, Stan. Thinking that our plan is going to make us happy in the future if we accomplish our plan. And that's the way that humanity is taught. That is human civilization.
Is it better to not have a plan?
Well, in this present moment, it's better to not have a plan. Now, if you got a plan, like for instance, in January, I've got to go for immigration, but I'm not planning about it right now. But I will do some planning and do some things the week before the visa run is needed. Got to go to the bank, got to go to the hospital, got to go to the landlord, get all their papers together. But I'm not planning about it. I used to. I used to do the visa run in my head 3 months before the visa run had to be done. I stopped doing that. No
Just
need.
you just realize. So you just realize that whenever you're worrying, you just stop.
Yeah. Whenever you realize that you're worried about something, stop worrying about it. It's my byline on, or the bottom line on my email. Don't worry. Be happy. That's actually the teaching of the Buddha in a nutshell. Dukkha, dukkha nirodha was the way that the Buddha expressed it. Dissatisfaction and satisfaction. Your choice. And that choice is always in the moment. If you can remember. And that's why sati is so important. It's so important that, in fact, we have anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. Remember to breathe. That's the very first step. If you can learn to breathe, if you can learn to control your breathing and get yourself into a state of satisfaction and happy just watching the breath and enjoying this moment, then can you sustain that? Well, you have to keep the kind of thoughts out of the mind that's going to pull you off, and to stay out of the kind of feelings that are going to pull you off, and let yourself just stay in a state of satisfaction. And you practice this over and over again. I've got a friend who just gave it a new one-liner, and that is, get happy, stay happy. In this moment, stay happy. Not stay happy for the next 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, but to get happy right now, and then in this moment, stay happy.
How would you define happy?
I don't have to. I'm going to let you do that. And I do that with the way of feel the way you want to feel rather than feel the way that you've been in the habit of feeling, if you can remember. And taking a few deep breaths will help you start to feel the way you want to feel. But we have a lot of words that we can point to it. In fact, language is quite inadequate. And that people have known that language is inadequate for such a long time Even the Lao Tzu, when he wrote the Tao Te Ching, the opening line is, the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao. Okay, well, happiness is just a word, but it does indicate or point to a state of mind, a state of being. And you want me to define it, and I'm wanting you to have it. And we have a lot of words to define it. One is satisfaction. Another one, in fact, an important word, is success. What are you successful at? Throwing the crap out of the mind. That's what we're successful at, by being secluded from the past, secluded from the future, secluded from restlessness, secluded from doubt, secluded from wanting things, secluded from being dull or sleepy, so that we're bright, attentive. And by secluded from the hindrances, we feel like a champion. Oh, wow, I'm so happy to be free from that crap. And so we take a deep breath and enjoy the moment. And you practice that over and over and over again, and it just begins to be just a tiny little bit of a habit. But all of the old habits are really strong because you've been doing them every day, all day long. But if you keep practicing, and the way you practice is by remembering. That's why it's actually a good idea to call this practice, mental practice, and not even use the word meditation. You can take that word meditation and give it back to the Catholics, along with the word suffering.
I don't think Catholics meditate. They do like silent prayers, which is sort of meditation, but well, I mean, I never heard any.
Well, praying, isn't that wanting something you don't have?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there is a kind of meditation on, for instance, the glory of God. And now we're in the moment experiencing the glory of God. That's okay. But they don't. What they do is they sit there asking for crap. So they're actually, by prayer, putting themselves in a state of want, dissatisfaction.
So do you not recommend sitting down on the cushion?
Where's that cushion?
In my room.
Okay, all right.
Do you think that's good practice or no? Or
the cushion has nothing to do with it. You do not put the mind on the cushion and then the body walks out of the room.
But meditation is a good practice for
mental development is a good practice.
Okay.
And that's what we're talking about, is mental development and skill development. When we talk about mental development, that's actually maybe not a good word to use. The word Sita Bhavana could better be defined as developing feelings to feel the way you want to feel. But in that are many skills to be developed. Experiencing the mind is a skill to be developed. Gladdening the mind is a skill to be developed. Feeling like a champion, feeling like a successful situation, that's a skill to be developed. Being satisfied, that's a skill to be developed. Being able to maintain that state of being satisfied is a skill to be developed. Watching the body and become very, very alert to the body, inside and outside, is a skill to be developed. Because normally in Western society, we kind of ignore the body unless we want to haul it to a doctor or haul it to a gym. But just sitting and enjoying being in the body is something that's not taught in school.
Okay.
And so most people, when they sit down, Western people, when they sit down with the idea of doing something, whatever it is that they're told to do, with the idea that someday I'm going to, after I put enough hours in, get some benefit. And some people actually work really, really hard wanting to meditate, wanting to get some value out of it, and they're missing the whole point.
Which is?
To be happy, to develop being happy right here, right now. That's the reason to do Zazen, is to just sit and do nothing.
Yeah, that is very non-Western.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I'm too Westernized.
No. You are Westernized, but too Westernized, that's the word that the loser would use.
Well, okay.
That's because you have doubt when you say I'm too Westernized. Maybe I'm too Westernized. That's actually the expression of the doubt. Can I do this or not? Can I come out of this crap or not? The answer is sure you can.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I need to believe it now and be happy. Fair enough.
Okay. And that is actually, I will admit, is a radical change. And when you start to change this, many things will come up that will be a surprise. Ye shall know the truth by investigating, and that's what we're doing. We're beginning to investigate. We're going to investigate the breath. We're going to investigate the body. We're going to investigate the feelings. And when we investigate, we're going to see the truth of the situation. And in some cases, it's really going to piss you off. Because it puts us in direct confrontation with our own delusions.
Okay.
So never mind that you've been wasting your whole life up until now. The question is, from now, in this moment, are you going to waste your life? Or can you develop the habit of, in this present moment, develop the habits to be free and happy? Can you feel the way you want to feel?
Not yet. But
well, right now you can. Take a deep breath and feel happy right now. Give it a go. I'll wait. Got nothing to do.
how? But it's the idea to
You're not doing it. Look at you. Come on, take a deep breath and enjoy the moment and be happy. I'll show you how.
Okay. Yeah, whenever I talk to people about life, they tell me that I'm having a mental breakdown because I'm so stressed.
I hope so. I hope you break down all that crap.
I mean, it just seems non-natural to laugh about the one goal that you have in life, which is be happy, and the way to do it is just like it's so.
But it's not a goal in life in the sense of a long-term goal. It's a goal of right now, can I be happy? I
Yeah.
forget about the future. In fact, if there's any way to talk about having a goal, the goal is stop having goals. The plan, Stan, is to stop planning, Stan. And if you're satisfied with the moment, then you don't need a plan. We only need a plan when we get unhappy again, because we forget. So I have this question for you. Just a moment ago, you let yourself enjoy the moment, take a deep breath, relax, and sigh. But it didn't last long. Something happened and you pulled yourself right out of it and you started talking again.
I've I I am in the habit of talking whenever there's silence.
Okay. So that's a good insight. That maybe you don't have to talk, even though you feel the need to talk, that you became dissatisfied with the silence.
Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
right.
And so all the material, all the work we need to do is always available right here in this present moment. Here's an example of that. The example is the farmer has to cross over to the pasture because the cows are over on the other side. But if he pays attention to only I've got to get over to the other side, to the other part of the pasture, and he's not watching where he's going, then he's going to step in a bunch of cow pies. He's going to be covered with cow shit by the time he gets over there. But instead of just having the idea that, oh, I'm going in this direction, but right now the plan is in this moment to not step in any cow pies. And so he can map the trajectory out, see where the cow pies are going, maybe change his own way of doing because he might get into an area where there's no way out without stepping on something. So watch those kind of places. And we follow a path that is free from dissatisfaction. But we have to watch where we're going every step. So what you do when you plan for a goal is that there's so much happening between now and the end of that goal that you can't see. And so when we're focused on the goal, we're not watching what we're doing right now. It's much better to forget about the plan and watch where we're going.
And by watching where we're going, you mean
To
any
stay out of dissatisfaction.
so the first thing at any given moment is to stay in satisfaction. And
Yeah.
and then
If
you can
you
do
can do
whatever
it,
you
no,
want.
come into it. Normally, we start in the position of being in a state of dissatisfaction. So the question is, what can I do to get in my state into a state of satisfaction? And then in this moment, how to maintain that. This particular satisfaction that I've just arrived at, let's linger. Let's keep it long.
At all costs.
Pardon?
At all costs? Not really.
Well, yes, let's say at all costs, because whatever cost there is to stay in this state of satisfaction is certainly going to be better than the cost of falling into suffering or falling into the dukkha. That's going to be much, much more expensive. That's going to be the all cost. The question is, can you be on guard? Now, I'll teach you some techniques along the way, but right now we're trying to get to the big picture of looking at whose job is this and what is the job. And the job is to get yourself into a state of satisfaction rather than planning on doing something that you accomplish so that then you can have the feeling of accomplishment. That instead you can generate that feeling of accomplishment by being accomplished at not having any worries, not having any plans. The accomplishment is to be here now, in this moment, and not worry about the future.
It's hard. So it's hard to be on the moment because the moment is so fleeting.
No, it fleets because your mind fleets out of the moment. In fact, this present moment, this now, has been here and will continue to be here as long as there's a universe to be here. Day in and day out, there's always the now available. It does not fleet. The mind fleets.
Well, but then it's the same. The mind fleets or the moment fleets. The mind is the moment.
So how can you sustain it, or how can you prevent the mind from fleeting?
Exactly.
Exactly.
How?
How? Be on guard. Be on guard to only have the kind of thoughts that are worthwhile having. And the thoughts that are worthwhile having are thoughts about the right here, right now. What do I see in this moment? What do I hear in this present moment? What do I feel with my fingers in this present moment? What does my mustache actually feel like as I'm rubbing it? I noticed you stopped. I wasn't complaining.
No, I mean it's weird because it's out of the. I mean, it is true. Like I'm just doing it, but not really at a very
So
basic.
you're doing it mindlessly. Is that the way of saying it?
I think it's partly mindlessly, but there's also a mindless satisfaction that comes from it.
Okay.
So
So why don't you really make that satisfaction completely mindful?
because I'm listening to you, and that is where my attention is.
Or you're listening to all kinds of things. In fact, the world is quite complicated. This is did I mention to you about the idea of carrying a whole lot of stuff? If you got a whole lot of stuff in your hand, you're likely to drop something. The less you carry, the less there is. So if you're going to have the intention of listening to me, then perhaps that's all you should be doing.
Okay.
Rather than doing a bunch of other stuff along with it. That
I
we
mean,
get the idea that we're multitasking, and in fact, there is no such thing as multitasking, but there is flittering from one task to the next without completing one.
so you're saying that it's better to put your whole attention to one thing, and that's
No, it is better to practice this. So you're still very outcome or goal oriented.
okay.
And the whole quality is to come back to this present moment and be here now. And in this present moment, it is more beneficial to practice being secure, being happy, than it is to allow ourselves to be stuck in the past, stuck in the future, wanting things we don't have, full of anxiety, full of anger, full of restlessness and worry, conceit, all of these kinds of things. You would think that it would be wise, or the right view, right noble view, is to not be in those woeful states. but to be in a state of joy, state of satisfaction in this present moment. It is more valuable for you to be joyful, feeling like a winner, than it is for you to feel miserable. And so that's that second level of doubt. Are you up to the task? The answer is yes, I am. I can do this. And when we forget, never mind, remember, and then never mind, start again. It's a skill to be developed. Sati is a skill to be developed, the skill of remembering. Next time when you call, we'll talk about some other skills that need to be developed. But right now, we need to let this settle, that everything that you're going to get out of the teachings of the Buddha have to do with what you can do right here, right now. And always the choice is the be doubtful about whether you can do it or not, or know that you can do it, to eradicate that doubt. So we need to practice the eradication of that doubt. The word shraddha is oftenly wrong translated as the word faith. A much better way to use the word shraddha would be confidence. Confidence based upon success, one success after another, then we'll build the confidence. So in this particular moment, the confidence comes up to a level of, yes, I can remember to be here now.
I mean, just the concept of realizing that you're here right now, it's just hard to grasp. That is like just...
Well, take a deep breath and grasp it with the breath. Become conscious of your breathing. Start watching the breath. Learn to control it. Learn to take deep breaths. So when you're saying it's hard to grasp the present moment, grasp it with the breath. Watch this present breath. Feel the body as you're breathing in. Know what the body feels like as you're breathing out. All of that happens. You can't watch last month's breath.
No, you can't.
And you can't plan on next year's breath. You can only do it right now. Did you notice that when you're breathing in, you rock back, and when you breathe out, you rock forward?
I mean, I guess it's my, yeah. It's my stomach. It may be the stomach that is holding the computer.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It may be the computer that I'm moving it. But yeah. Okay.
Oh, so the computer is sitting on your chest? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right. That makes perfect sense. Because I can see it.
Yeah.
You can see as you breathe. That's interesting. All right. So this has been quite a long call. We've been at it now for an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
Don't wait so long before you call back, because there's a lot that we can do together with this.
Okay.
And this is just the basic understanding. We're just getting started. And the place to start is to recognize there's skills to be developed, and it's worthwhile to be in the present moment. And it's also worthwhile to feel the way that you want to feel. So start experimenting with that. Start playing with it. Start developing feeling good as a skill.
Okay.
Using the words like success or the lion, become a winner. Come out of that victimhood, out of the loser, out of using words like I'm too Western or this is hard. Those are all losers' words.
Okay.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, thank you so much. I'll call you some other time then.
Well, when will you call?
I like waking up early. That is the main problem. It is my just but I can call. I mean, I can do. I guess it's not super late right now.
Okay, well, you can call even earlier than this. I'm up generally at 8. Right now, it's a little bit after 11.
Oh, okay. Wait, 11.
Yeah,
It's your 11.
yeah, it's 11:17 a.m.
Oh, it's 11:17 p.m. here. So it's exactly 12 hours.
Well, that's true in the Eastern time zone when you have Eastern Standard Time. Most of the year, you're in daylight saving time.
Oh, you guys don't have daylight savings? Wait,
No,
you said you didn't have a watch.
I don't.
Okay. But you have a computer with a time, I guess.
Yes, it's part of Windows. It's right there on the screen.
Okay. Okay. So you say you're up since 8? You can do 8?
Generally about 8.
Okay. Well, yeah, earlier it seems better. So I'll call in a couple days.
Good. That would be good. Call in a couple of days. That's a good idea.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All righty.
All
See
right.
you.
Bye.